When we do the financials, can you put them up on the screen?
All right, Kelly, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
All right, perfect. We're good. Okay.
We can hear him. He's not on mute. That was, I think, CCTV.
No, it's kind of like a delay recording. Yeah. We just started.
Can hear him. He's on. What is it?
Someone just texted me that it's working. Yay.
Yeah, it's working, but then now we're getting feedback. It's like a 10-second delay. Yes, there are people out there. Question over there. What is that?
I know what's going on.
You got it?
Oh, let me turn off my cell phone.
Hey, Mark, can you get that one more time?
Testing audio. Do we need a mic for whoever's talking up here?
No, it'll pick up.
Okay, all right.
Okay. All right, I'm calling the meeting back to order at 6:21. I want to say thank you to Ms. Cunningham for your, there you are, thank you, for your remarks. We do have a statement that we were going to, not a statement, but a letter that the city attorney prepared that he was going to read later in the evening, but I just asked him if he would read it now, which may address some of the concerns. So, Mr. Watts, if you wouldn't mind coming somewhere where you could be close to a microphone, please. Thank you. Maybe to the podium would be okay with me, if that's okay with you. Thank you.
This letter is to Mr. Charles J. Paternoster at Paternoster, Farnell, and Grind in Portland. Dear Mr. Paternoster, I am the city attorney for the city of King City. Approximately March 21st, 2024, I received an anonymous letter making allegations about the city. King City City Manager Michael Weston, Police Chief Hapola, Police Lieutenant Siegler, and Police Officer Aragani. The letter was sent to local and state law enforcement, the Washington County District Attorney, the Department of Justice, and others. All contacted agencies and offices declined to open investigation, and none reported any indication of wrongdoing, criminal or otherwise. I contacted the city's insurer as well as the District Attorney, Kevin Barton, in Washington County Sheriff's Office, specifically told that they saw no grounds for investigation. I had conversations with former King City mayors Fender and Gibson, both of whom expressed strong opinions that the allegations were false and unfounded. There are allegations in the letter that I have personal knowledge are false or mischaracterize the law. Very unfortunate these allegations have been made against your clients, whose names should be cleared. I will ask that the city add this to their employee files. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Watts. So for anyone that doesn't know what that letter was about, I'm guessing most people do know what that letter was about. It was about an anonymous letter that was circulated in King City. As Mr. Watts just read, he consulted with the Department of Justice, among other people, said that there was no criminal wrongdoing they could find in the letter, and because of that, we are not pursuing an investigation of the employees that were accused by this anonymous letter writer. So Does the council members have anything to add? If not, we will continue with open forum. Thank you for reading that. And I just want to say welcome to the young members in our audience today. This is the first time I've had kids here, and so it's really nice to see the kids here. Thank you for coming. Okay, next up is Janet Black. Janet, can you please approach the podium, introduce yourself, tell us the city that you live in, and please try to limit your statement to about 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Janet Black, and I live in unincorporated Washington County. Hi, I sent an email to all of you. In 2024-16. It's a pretty long email, so for now, I'm just going to ask the questions. Where is the comprehensive analysis that was described in the resolution, and what are the areas? What makes it needing immediate attention and an urgent need? What are the areas throughout Kingston Terrace that require infrastructure improvements and land acquisition? Does this resolution give authority to city staff to acquire property rights without further approval from City Council? Does this resolution give authority to city staff to pursue all grants without further approval from City Council? Several places in the property appraisal of Edgewater, it labels the acquisition of the property as a taking. Is this resolution giving staff authority to use eminent domain to obtain the property rights? If the answer is yes to the last 3 questions, particularly about acquiring property, then I would like to add a couple questions. Why and why now? I expect the reason to be something like City Council sets policy and staff carries it out, and also that the Kingston Terrace Master Plan and the Transportation System Plan are approved policies. And I agree this is technically true, but how it is done, I think, is important. Doing something like this just before the newly elected councilors are sworn in is bad timing. Is there anything that really cannot wait for the new councilors to be sworn in? I believe that all of you want to do what's best for King City, and that increasing trust with your community is one of your goals. Consider how approving this resolution will look to the voters who just elected new councilors. There was some damage done when Smarta Choli was reappointed to the council in spite of voters telling you they wanted to remove him. And here's an opportunity for you to show the voters that you respect their choice.
Thank you so much, Janet. I did have an email conversation with Ms. Black, thanking her for her email and for raising these questions. It's important, I think, to listen to all the questions and concerns that our community members have. And I also spoke with Mike Weston about these concerns and questions, and he plans to answer these questions later on this evening. Okay, next up is Jessica Braverman. Jessica, please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us the city that you live in. And try to keep your comments to about 3 minutes.
Oh, you already know me, don't you? Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Braverman. I live in Edgewater, and even though I'm the acting Edgewater president of our HOA, I'm here in capacity as a homeowner myself. I'm a little bit concerned about what's going on with Edgewater and the acquisition, and why we have written the commissioners, the planning commissioners. I have written letters, and we've asked you guys to slow down the process, because we just formed a land use committee, a neutral committee within Edgewater that could educate all 436 of my neighbors about what the pros and cons might be in acquiring the easement or the land that is now known as our green space. And yet I've been ignored, it feels like, and so have the 436 homeowners. The land use committee got formed, which, you know, we had to go through a board meeting to get that approved. It was approved. They met immediately on October 10th. We wrote immediate letters, or they did, the neutral committee. We wrote to the planning commissioners asking them to postpone so that the committee could educate, get handouts out to the homeowners. So most of the homeowners didn't even know it was their land. They didn't know it belonged to Edgewater, for example. So we've asked for people to slow down here, and instead, after we wrote those letters, we got a notice of appraisal. And then we had our HOA association attorney write to you guys and say, hey, can you postpone because the land use committee is still trying to gather information, and that was ignored. And the next thing we know, we didn't even get a copy of the appraisal, but we understand it was posted here on the King City website. Guys, this is not fostering trust with the homeowners in Edgewater. We don't know why you're trying to ramrod this through when we're asking you to give us a chance to educate our homeowners. You might say, oh, well, we've had surveys and we've done this and we've done that, but the homeowners are raising children. Most of Edgewater are young families raising children. They're not paying attention to everything that's going on in King City, I'm sorry to say. Instead, they're waiting for us, the Land Use Committee, this neutral committee, to educate them. But we haven't had even a chance to get even a door-to-door paper out to the homeowners. And now you're having a resolution today, and we want to know, what is the big hurry? I want to know exactly, and I want to talk to the person who you are going to tell us today is rushing you. I want to have that conversation to find out what is the rush. Please give us time to educate our residents so they understand the pros and the cons before you ramrod this project through. Thank you.
Okay, next up, Gary Woods. Gary, please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us what city you live in.
Gary Woods, I live in King City, and I basically say the same as Jessica. I'd like to encourage you to table the resolution, R 2024-16, because I feel like it seems like an urgency. I happen to be on the Land Use Committee. I've been in meetings so far, and all of a sudden you're ready to have a resolution and do something about it. So I would like us to slow down a little bit and let the opportunity for the new people who were just elected recently to be a part of this decision. I've also noticed that have walked on the West Side Trail, and I haven't seen any place else on the West Side Trail where I've gone that has any other facilities or anything else. It's a trail. And then I see King City wants to have a lot of other things. I think it needs to slow down and to deal with what's going on. Remember, this would be a very unpopular move to move against the HOA of Edgewater for eminent domain. It's better if we work together, as I've mentioned to you several times before as I've spoken here, that we sit down and we work this out together instead of pushing forward. So just remember that we've had some rough patches in the past, and hopefully we've learned from those and can work together a little bit better than we have in the past. The council always says, willing sellers, then the plan will move forward. And how do we even know that Edgewater is a willing seller? Because we are in a process. We have covenants that we have to follow. There is also state laws about this whole process. And as I read them, I wondered, where is the public hearing about this? Because the state requires a public hearing for this kind of a thing. And when I read the resolution, it looks as though if you pass the resolution, it looks like you are granting the ability to somebody, probably the city manager, to move forward with the process of eminent domain. And I think that the bottom line is slow down, let's work together. We are a small community, and we can find a good compromise together.
Thank you, Gary. Well said. I think you shared that in a really nice way. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, Dan Brenner. Please approach the podium and introduce yourself and tell us what city you live in, or neighborhood, whatever you prefer.
My name is Dan Brenner. I live at 14120 Southwest River Lane in Tigard still. Just have a short comment. This excerpt was taken from the King City website, titled Shaping King City's Future. Importantly, King City's development strategy is underpinned by a strong commitment to protecting homes and neighborhoods. This approach ensures that the city's growth does not come at the expense of its current residents. By safeguarding the character of established communities, King City upholds its heritage and character while embracing new growth and opportunities. To me, that's not quite true. More truthful statement would be a strong commitment to protecting existing homes and neighborhoods, with the exception of Edgewater, Rivermead, El Dorado, King Village, Versailles, Bedford, the Bankston Preserve, and anyone else living on Fisher Road. Your statement just doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. Appreciate it. Okay, next up, Steve Stevens. If you could please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us what city you live in.
Hello, my name's Steve Stevens. I'm in King City. I'm actually at 13690 Southwest King Lear Way, right at that edge of that beautiful property in which everybody's talking about for a very long time. For years now, from having that cigar in Lake Oswego, and in the dream of a beautiful place where people can just walk through and truly enjoy it, and that makes sense. But for an HOA to also own land, it is a pretty important thing. And one of the things that I've just gathered here, besides I've lived there with Angie for 11 years. I've also served our country as a combat medic for the U.S. Army. Right after we left there, Walter Reed moved back home, and this has been our home again. I was born here in Portland, Woodland Park Hospital. That doesn't even exist. Times change, people change. Get it. Things have to change. But it's how they change. That's the most important. Communication, no matter what we do, how we go about things, are always important. And for me, really, on how my whole home opens up, and you can come and see it yourself, it's all going to open up to whatever you put in front of us, right? Well, you've got to get the land first, of course. But according to the plans, it's like a skating rink, or whatever that is, and it's no one's come and said, hey, what do you think, or whatever, and that's fine. I get it. People move; they don't stay in homes very long. I've stayed there 11 years so far, and you would think even the homes that come up and down that way is, hey, what do you think about this? What's going on with this? Fingers on the pulse, fingers on the community. What's going on? That's important. Fingers on the pulse, no matter what. I don't think it matters. Honestly, that's been bypassed here. Being where I was at and how I served, I'm down 3 medications, and the reason why I'm saying that is because I have resorted to THC and CBD. Why am I saying that in this forum, in front of everybody here? Especially with the young youth that I'm very appreciative that's here, but that's legal for me too, because I'm 52 years old. I haven't had a drink for 16 years, and I don't drive, but when I'm home and off my feet, you better believe it. That's my relaxation. I don't like the idea of having a skate park 8 feet, 10 feet on the other side of me. That kind of fearful for me, and that's just something I do, right? So it's going to smell like marijuana. No matter what you put on the other side of me, I'm going to be there for another 7, 8 years. That's just not a good idea. And I don't need to change. I lived there for 11 years, folks. So that's my personal thing. And the other thing is that value, that commodity that we have as an HOA, my goodness gracious, what we have and all the tension and all of the different things where we're at, we all need to understand how important that is before anyone votes, anything is let go. The appraisal's in, okay, that's one appraisal. I was always told you get 2 or 3. So I'm just centralizing whatever I can, because I'm looking around at some great people doing great things, because it's hard as all get out to volunteer and be part of anything bigger than yourself. which is always part of the community, part of the HOA, part of the city, no matter what. And you know I'm speaking the truth. You know I'm speaking the truth. You know I'm speaking the truth. You all know I'm speaking the truth that know me. So I want to thank you for your time. You have me honestly open and out. And anything I can do and be a part of, you all know where I live. Your time.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your service, for sure. Oh, Dan Brenner. Okay, Gary Mitchell?
I guess it's really
Gary, please, introduce yourself and try to limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Okay. Gary Mitchell. I live in Edgewater, King City. The resolution that you have before you tonight concerns, at least it reads like it concerns, taking of private property for the city's use. The city's intended use is for the West Side Trail Community Park, but it's becoming evident that it is primarily to initiate building road extensions across the transmission line corridor. When built, these roads are to be barricaded, or at least it's proposed that they be barricaded as Southwest 137th. I've heard community comments, and I believe they've been comments through the open house also, that building these extensions well before development occurs will create an attractive nuisance, and the city will have to prevent RV homeless parking and camping. There's been much citizens' comments about this concern, and yet the city's proposing to go ahead with building roads before it's apparent that they're necessary. Additionally, the resolution says this must be done immediately, and the need for this infrastructure is urgent. Yet, again, the development has not occurred yet. That's development that's been talked about from moving from the west to the east. That hasn't occurred. So I'm not sure why the words urgent and immediate are in the resolution. Other comments I've heard is that the city manager has said it makes sense to build the roads and utilities when the West Side Trail Park is built so that you don't have to redo any of the trail, and also comments that the impact on the trail of building the roads later would be minimal, as the trail is basically about a 12-foot wide asphalt trail that would be impacted, but very minimally impacted at each road crossing. Making such a huge investment of public funding to build roads before they're needed diverts that funding from other possibly more important funding needs in the region. The resolution states taking, which implies initiating condemnation through the right of eminent domain through the courts. Is this resolution initiating the condemnation process? This type of action usually requires an opportunity for citizens to provide input and express their views through a public hearing, not just a meeting of the council. The issue is important enough that the city should hold, at least in my opinion, should hold a public hearing before voting on this resolution. A public hearing will provide an opportunity for citizens to express their views and also serve as a way to promote transparency and accountability in government. By allowing the public to participate in the decision-making process, officials can ensure that their actions, that's you officials, can ensure that your actions are in line with the needs and priority of the community. Public hearings help build trust between government and citizens. Public hearings create a more inclusive and responsive decision-making process. We are at a time, and you all know what I mean by this, when King City needs to rebuild trust with the community. This is your opportunity. I recommend that the council defer this resolution until a public hearing is held, and then after careful consideration of public input and concerns and what the public priorities are, make your decision then on this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Gary Davis, you're up. Wow, 3 Garys speaking tonight. Gary, please introduce yourself and tell us what city you live in.
Okay. I live in King City. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Gary Davis, resident of King City, specifically the Edgewater community. I previously addressed you all, right, last month. So I was here on the October 16th meeting regarding, had some concerns about the West Side Trail, which includes roadways that are unwanted in my community. There's an overabundance of facilities that are trying to be dumped behind people's houses. I'm just going to remind everyone again because this is very problematic. Parking congestion, there's going to be noise and safety risks. I urge the council then to please consider this, right? Please listen to people. Please have a public discussion on this, right? Some of those residents, they aren't even aware. I talk to them when I walk my dog. They're not even aware of all the stuff that's being dumped behind their house or being planned to. So that's why I came in here, right? And I appreciate the opportunity you guys all gave me to give me some time, so thank you for that. At the last meeting, following remarks were made by the city manager after I said what I had to say. Basically, there's a big, long, drawn-out process here. And the message I took away from everything that was said by the manager was that this was being handled by the Planning Commission, right? This is something that the city staff's taking care of, and it's way down the road. So that's what I was led to believe, and I believe you were all led to believe that as well. And so I, was pretty shocked when 9 days later, I get an email from my HOA on October 25th that I received this email from the management company, basically telling the homeowners about the possible sale of the HOA common property. And basically for this community park, the West Side Trail Park, right? To my further dismay, then I see on November 14th that there is this agenda here for this meeting that we're now going to talk about a resolution, basically to try to, take that land, and that basically there's already been an appraisal done. First, I want to say I am very upset by this. I cannot believe this, right? 4 weeks. I come in here with my concerns, I'm dismissed, and 4 weeks later I'm told, and you guys were told the same thing. Hey, council, don't worry about this. Hey, fellow constituent, this is down the road, long time away. We have grants, all this other stuff. This is not down the way, right? Everything that was said by the city manager, this whole process is being contradicted by today, and everything that's going on, and appraisals, and my HOA contacting me saying that they want to purchase the land. So I'm pretty upset by that. And then, the second thing is, I'm shocked that the city has used what I assume is taxpayer money to, again, hire, consultants. They've spent a bunch of time and effort developing park plans. They've engaged the entire King City community about a park layout with surveys, holding open houses and pop-up events, all for land that King City doesn't own. That is unbelievable and shocking. How do you go out and plan for something you don't even own, and you make all these? It's the biggest, frustrating, unbelievable thing I've ever heard. And so while I understand that the West Side Trail, right, has been a metro master plan for a long time. I've read it. I've seen it. 2014. I understand it's been around for a long time. I think a lot of people like it. I've been to the Beaverton side, right? There's trails. We get it. But a pedestrian link for cyclists, for pedestrians, is much different than the extensive amount of facilities that this city is trying to dump into our land, right? The skate park, basketball park, there's a soccer field, there's a garden, there's parking lots, bathrooms, boat dock, I don't even know. There's just so much stuff that's being dumped back in there. And so third, and I think it's been mentioned here, which is great to hear, third thing that's pretty upsetting is that the Edgewater community hasn't even had a vote on this matter, right? And so what if the community decides we don't want to sell our land to the city? What if, my community wants to pursue some other plan? Maybe that plan is more aligned with the metro, right? Some kind of trail or something else, right? So, at that point, is the city prepared to go ahead and take our land if we don't want to sell it? Are you guys going to allow that travesty to happen? I mean, this This is just unbelievable. And, you know, this entire process to me has just been a total violation of trust, and it reeks of deception. Again, I've been here 3 years in this community. This is like a TV show of just deception and just, I mean, it's unbelievable what's going on here, guys, right? And you guys are my citizens. This has to stop. I mean, something has to change. And it's not that there's some rebel-rouser group of people. I don't even know many people here. And I've been here 3 years, and I'm like, this is just what is going on here. The city is not listening to its people, right? And I know you guys are, you know, doing your best, and you guys are volunteers for this, so I thank you for that. But something's got to change. And then, you know, I just want to say one other thing here, is that I know once I'm done speaking, there's going to be typical responses that I've seen. I saw it at the last meeting 4 weeks ago, and I've seen it when I've watched other meetings. Typical responses that are common in these meetings after people get up here and speak. And one of them that comes up pretty often is speaking in generic absolute terms. Happens all the time here. City manager does it very often. And those absolute terms are regarding those roads, they're regarding the transportation system plan, and they're talking about the master plan, or they're talking about some absolutes with the consultants. This is misleading and true, and not true. As an engineer, I know there are countless ways to solve problems. You can collaborate effectively. There could be new ideas, you know, that can be considered. Plans are revised all the time. At my work, it happens all the time. I'm sure other people's works. We have plans, they change. Someone else has a better idea, that plan gets revised. Sometimes you throw the plan away completely. But these absolute terms like this is all guaranteed. It's all been done and there's nothing we could do about it, I think is, again, misleading, and I also think it's manipulative. And it happens all the time in these meetings, guys.
Thank you very much.
So, you know, a couple things, I'll wrap it up. Additionally, you know, I want to mention the consultants. We've hired consultants at my job. They offer valuable knowledge, but their advice should not be blindly followed. Decisions made on consultant advice without considering the community's specific wishes, goals, and long-term impacts will lead to poor outcomes. These consultants are paid for recommendations based on narrow guidance parameters given by whoever gives them, right? It's all up to that one person. And so they don't have decision-making authority. What they say is not final. What you guys say is final, right? These people should be taken as advice. They are not decision makers, right? And so I hear too often in this meeting these absolutes. Oh, well, the consultant said. They gave advice. They didn't give some kind of directive. So please just keep that in mind. And just to conclude, I ask all of you guys as our elected council representatives, to please take a step back and try to see this for what it is. There is something rotten here. This is rotten, right? This is just bad. I'm sure it will be presented to you guys, this whole resolution, that it's something urgent, and it's going to be portrayed as some other inevitable step for the city's existence and long-term growth. But we know better than that. That is not true, right? It's simply not true. This decision requires much more careful consideration, transparency, and community engagement in the decision-making process. And equally important, it was already mentioned here, we have newly elected city council members that must be involved in these decisions of this magnitude, especially with their swearing in happening soon. They're going to join you guys as your teammates. We should wait for that. We just had an election. That's American.
Okay.
It's democracy.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to cut
Yep,
you.
I have faith in you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Sorry, I hate cutting people off. Sorry, I really don't like cutting people off, but I just want to be respectful of everyone's time, especially the volunteers that are here serving their community tonight. But we do appreciate your comments. Okay, Dawn Mobley. Please approach the podium, introduce yourself, and tell us what city.
Hello, I'm Dawn Mobley. I'm usually on Zoom, so this is me. I am in the Rivermead community, so not within King City, but close enough and soon enough. So I'm typically reading over the phone, so I apologize. I don't have much eye contact. I'm just going to read. I will try to shorten it up. Thanks to Gary, I want to make sure that I will give the rest of my time to you so we can keep moving. So I just want to basically say some of the same things that have been said tonight, and that's why I can shorten this up, which is, again, I want to focus on the resolution for this evening, our 2024-16. And I just, again, want to say that it's imperative that the council fully understands the weight and the power it will be giving to the city manager and staff if they approve this resolution tonight, as it is written, as I understand it. So in this resolution, where King City has determined that acquisition of additional land is necessary to complete planned infrastructure, whereas the land acquisition aligned with the long-term goals outlined in the Kingston Terrace Master Plan and the transportation, the TSP. Therefore, item 3, King City shall initiate the process of acquiring necessary lands as needed to support infrastructure not only for the West Side Trail Park, but for the Tualatin River Trail and the Kingston Terrace in accordance with applicable laws and regulations. So this resolution isn't just talking about purchasing the property for the West Side Trail Park project from Edgewater. This seems to be a blanket resolution giving full rein to the city manager and staff to pursue attaining any land for sale or not for sale within the whole Kingston Master Plan and the TSP. Does this resolution allow the city manager and staff to acquire land by eminent domain, which is a question that's come up tonight, without any further review or approval by the council if approved tonight? So that's a very good question. It was stated earlier, I won't go into too much more, but basically that again, Edgewater has been trying to communicate that they want more time, and that has not been what they feel has been given to them. I will also add that the Planning Commission did pass the concept plan at their last meeting, 5-2. So that does seem to be not be giving them much time to do what they need to do to be able to even talk to their community. So my question then is, how will the council know if all the avenues of open and honest negotiations have been explored if this resolution is passed? So again, if you give them just the right to kind of move forward, how will you ever know if they've talked all the way through to your satisfaction with the community? So just a few other potential land acquisitions this resolution could pertain to. There is a corner property on 137th that is going to need to move or not be there anymore when they either put in a light or a roundabout. The Rivermead Community Club Park, there is now a road going through that park, which is shown on the West Side Trail concept, not the concept map, but the actual, yes, actually, sorry, it is a concept map. There is a road showing right through that park, so that is another piece of property that would have to be attained in order to connect to River Lane. And then it's, you know, the elephant in the room, the Baxton Preserve and the Myers property, which would also need to be obtained to ensure that Fisher Road extension is done. And it also has to do with the Tualatin River Trail access. So those are just a few of some of the ones that have been mentioned in the past years. So this resolution really needs to be tightened up. It needs to be more specific, maybe one project at a time. You know, it talks about grants and it talks about land acquisitions, but those really should be resolutions that are one project at a time instead of as a whole. So again, we'll wrap up here, and it says, I ask the council that if you do vote yes tonight, that I ask that you guys explain in your own words why you would actually go ahead and be wanting this resolution at this time and what you actually understand it to be doing. Great, thank you.
Okay, Mike Meyer, you're up next. Mike, go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us what city you live in, and try to limit your statement to 2 minutes.
I'll try. I appreciate you giving people the extra time. So Mike Meyer, Kingston Terrace area. I wasn't going to get up here and talk. I really haven't been following the West Side Trail that closely. I haven't read the resolution. But as people talk, you know, a couple of things came to mind. And the first being eminent domain or condemnation. I've been listening to the city talk about all of this for the last 7 years. And fairly early on in a workshop, I listened to, Johnny, you were there, probably the only counselor that was there at that time, I think. And you were talking about eminent domain and how you would never do that to your neighbors. And Keith Leiden was there, the contract city planner at the time. And he said in his 30-plus years of planning, he had never run across a case of eminent domain. Then we hear about property will only be developed as landowners sell their property or choose to develop it themselves. And now, I mean, are we actually talking about eminent domain and condemnation? I mean, I haven't been really paying attention, but I'm hearing this rumbling of they're threatening eminent domain, and they might possibly condemn the HOA property. And I'm thinking, this is another case of how things have changed. There's promises being made. There's don't worry. The east side won't develop for 20, 30, 50 years down the road. And here we are, basically at day one. And you've got the east side developing or the west side developing, where it was said that that's going to happen out there, don't worry about it. And at the same time, you're planning this development on the east side with the roadways and the connection. So if you got something happening on the west side, something happening on the east side, then that connection is going to happen a lot faster than what we were led to believe 20, 30, 50 years down the road. So I can't believe, if this is true, they're actually even considering eminent domain. So that's just astonishing to me. Let's see, I just jotted down a few things. This is really choppy because, like I said, I wasn't going to talk. So what is the process? It seems like people are confused about exactly what's happening. And every week there seems to be something new that's being talked about. It's like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. How come this process hasn't been laid out for the community? It's like we're doing this, we're applying for this grant, and then this is going to happen, and this is going to happen, and then the goal is this. 5, 10, whatever happens to be down the road, and it seems like this is happening like right now. And the community is taken by surprise by this. Why is that? Why is the city council not collaborating with the community? Why is there no dialogue? Why do we have to go through attorneys in order to accomplish things and settle things? Why is that? The very first day I sat down at the charrette with Mayor Gibson, I didn't know who he was, sitting at the same table with him. And we were introducing ourselves, and I said, I'm not happy about what's going on. He looked at me and he said, get used to it, change is coming. Now that's the mayor of the city, and that's how he introduced himself to me. That put me on the defensive. I've been on the defensive ever since, because I've had no reason to work with anyone here, because I get it. It's a pack of lies. That's the way I view this, and it's the wrong way for a city to treat its community. And look at everything that's happened as a result of that. Recall, right? Smart Ochoa, nice guy. I love Smart on a one-on-one basis, but it was wrong what happened. I'm not going to get into that, but it just seems like this, from my perspective, this West Side, nobody's opposed to the West Side Trail. I haven't talked to anybody that doesn't want the West Side Trail. But it looks like a sales job to me when I see Disneyland being created in order to sell it to the community. And so, I mean, just one more thing on that. The linear park versus community park. That power line area was designated as a linear park. If you look at the definitions, what you're creating now is a community park. Now, I know Weston addressed this at the last council meeting, but you just can't, it seems like you're changing things within the comprehensive plan to accommodate what you're doing, yet you can't move a road 100 feet or 200 feet because it's in the comprehensive plan. You're so rigid on some things, but then you're allowing flexibility on others. And last thing that I wrote down here is that Gary, he said basically that he hasn't been involved with these meetings, coming to these meetings very long, but he figured things out pretty quick about how things operate. And it doesn't take long when people come to these meetings, actually come to these meetings, and it's hard to get people to come to these meetings, and I'm not sure why, but it definitely doesn't take long to figure things out. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mike. Well, there's definitely a common theme at tonight's meeting. So I'm glad that you all came. I'm glad that you all are expressing your concerns, and we definitely are hearing you. I know I am.
Online comment.
Oh, are there online comments? Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot about online. If there's anyone online that would like to make a comment, please raise your hand, and it looks like Smart is raising his hand. Can you unmute him, Ronnie, please?
Can you hear me now? Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Council. Sorry, I planned to be there in person, but like you know, with all the rains and everything, it's the season for us at the Army Corps of Engineers, trying to save lives and make things safe for everyone in the areas where these incidents are happening. Like you all know, the death in Washington already, and we're just trying to make sure we, as much as possible, keep people safe. So sorry, I'm not there in person. Again, I just wanted to thank you all. I just want to use the opportunity to kind of thank the city, thank the residents, thanks everyone for the opportunity to serve. Like you know, I put in my resignation last week from the council after serving almost 10 years on the council and other areas in the city. I just wanted to say, come there and just thank people. I mean, again, it's not easy for anyone to kind of trust people with decisions, trust people with running the affairs of the city. And that's what I really, really want to thank you all for giving me the opportunity to do that. Everyone in the room, I know, like I said, I have lived in this city for the longest, everywhere, all over all my life. This is the longest I've lived anywhere, you know. So when my wife and family, we moved here moved to King City from Lake Oswego in 2009, it was one of the best decisions we made. And we've been here 15 years, going on 15 years now, and it's been a great decision we made. Serving in the Army, I think that was another opportunity for me to serve. And I always look for opportunity to serve. And then I've always been a federal employee ever since I left the Army. So I'll continue serving. And so serving in the city was a great opportunity for me. And I'll continue serving as long as I live here and I have the time and the opportunity to do so. So I just wanted to say thank you. The one thing I would just want everyone to know is this. I am not in any way trying to blame anyone for what we have going on or the situations we're dealing with right now. It's the city that we're just trying to work for. We all have good intentions as to what we really want it to be. And that's one of the reasons why I put my hand up to serve, to kind of join the council and other areas that I was able to serve the whole almost 10 years that I was serving. So I really thank you all for the opportunity. Continue working together. I know it's not easy. I tried to do that when I was still serving. I try to meet people and try to get together, find that balance, that common ground that works for everyone. I know it's not easy, but we'll get there. So I really appreciate it. And the reason why I just wanted to step aside instead of just going about appealing the decision and all that, I said, no, let's save the city money. Let's save the taxpayers' money. We should be using that money for something else. And let's also get me off the Tigard Live. I mean, the papers. I'm always on the papers. I want us to put something good about King City in the papers or anywhere else. I'm kind of becoming like a local celebrity now. People greeting me everywhere and saying hi, and I'm like, who are you? You know. So no, it's not about me. It's not about the council. It should be about the city and the people and the residents. You know. So I really appreciate the opportunity, and I want to make sure that you all hear me. To say I don't have any people have mentioned my name tonight twice already, you know. So I just want to take the attention away from me and let's focus on the city and move things along for the city. I want to thank the staff, thank everyone that's been very, very helpful. Great relationships built over the years, and I'll continue keeping those. And I continue looking forward to meeting the people in this community too. I'm not disconnected. I'll still continue interacting with people as much as possible. And I'll use that connection that I have with the council and everyone else to continue to push forward with putting forward your comments, putting forward your concerns, you know. So I'll keep on doing that because I live in this city too. So I really want to make sure we have we make the best of our city and make it a safe and welcoming place for everyone. So thank you for the opportunity, and I look forward to participating and seeing you around. Thank you. Sorry again, I'm not able to be there in person. My plan was to be there in person, but things came up. Sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Smart. We appreciate that. And I wasn't going to necessarily make too much of a comment about Smart leaving, but Smart is no longer on the city council. He resigned last week. We did post a notice a 30-day notice to, for applications to fill that seat. So the application period ends on December 13th, I believe. December 13th. So if you or anyone you know is interested in serving on the city council, applications are being accepted until December 13th. And we can maybe discuss more of that later. Is there anyone else online that would like to make a comment? Oh, okay. We will move on to new business. In the audience, if you could keep your conversation outside, not have your conversations in here. It's just a little distracting for us, please. Thank you. New business. So on here it says Dixon and 131st. This was an intersection that was raised during last month's council meeting. During the public forum, a community member expressed some concern about a particular intersection within our city. What I had hoped we would discuss tonight is I would hope that we might hear from the city staff regarding, not in particular necessarily that intersection, although if you have information on that intersection, that'd be great too, but more kind of generally what the requirements are for street width for allowing emergency vehicles through and such. And I'm not sure if you are prepared to present on that or not, Max, but if you are, we would love to hear what you have to say.
Yes. So, we did ask our city engineer to be here. He is much more well-versed on traffic, hearing, code, and that. So, but I did some background information digging, and I'll do my best to kind of give you some context. So, in 2014, Castle Oaks East Subdivision and Gravens Grove Apartments were built. That was when they were going through their development review process. And what I have here is the Planning Commission's final notice. Essentially, at the time, the southern end of Dixon Street was not improved. It was a wooden fence house there. And the Highlands are up to the north, and the north side of Dixon had a sidewalk. So as part of the development agreement and conditions of approval, they had to improve South Dixon, including a sidewalk. They had to add a curb and a gutter, and create Dixon to be a width of 28 feet, which is what it is now. 28 feet, according to the Oregon Street Guide, can accommodate two sides of parking, on-street parking, with a queue in the middle. So it's a little bit narrow in the sense that, you know, someone has to wait.
That street. I'm just gonna interrupt really quick. I think Dixon is actually built a little bit wider.
I measured it back in the office using Google Earth, and it was 28, better. There might be like a foot there, some inches on the side, but they did say that it can accommodate it. But in the Planning Commission notice, there were a couple different references specifically to the 28 feet being designed in a way that parking is allowed on one side. So I'm not sure if that was, it's not really necessarily a condition, but that's kind of what they were approaching it as back at the time when they approved this. Maybe.
Can you repeat that or maybe read that excerpt from?
So a 28-foot wide street is proposed for the new local street, which would be Dixon, not technically new, but it was improved. The width is appropriate for anticipated traffic and on-street parking needs, parking on one side allowed.
Interesting.
And that is mentioned twice.
Okay, it sounds like they had planned for it to be parking only on one side.
Yeah. The street code for vision clearance, which is what is most relevant to that intersection, is 35 feet. So if you are approaching the intersection, you're 35 feet from the stop sign, you should be able to see 35 feet down whatever way you're going on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, as far as I can tell, compliant. If you're coming in north on 131st and you're trying to turn right, there's a fence. The fence doesn't block cars if there's cars parked there. So if someone's coming north, takes a right on Dixon, if they're paying attention, they should see a car there. If they're not paying attention and a car's there, that would obviously be a problem. But what is kind of interesting is that there is parking, as far as I can tell, on that street all the way up to the end of the intersection. So that could be something that, I wasn't here at the last council meeting, so I'm not exactly completely sure on what was brought up, but that could be something that the council could address if there were concerns specifically about cars being close to the
Yeah.
stop sign.
Right, yeah.
Just looking at the street view, I mean, it's a little bit of a gray area if you're going west on Dixon and you're gonna be, I don't know. Yeah, I guess you wouldn't really be looking north if you're going west on Dixon, you south for cars going north, so that's not really that much of an issue, but it is kind of, the buildings are set up in a way where there's like some trees and stuff, but that's not really a street issue.
Yeah, I mean, I see several intersections, several is like on the smaller side, in King City where there are similar issues, where cars are parked right up to where the stop sign is, and I'm pretty sure that you're not allowed to do that, yet people do it, and it really does impact your vision at that intersection, and I see it as a big safety concern.
General recommendation is like 20 to 50 feet.
Yeah.
Parking at stop signs.
So how do we address that as a city? Because it's not just that intersection, it's many intersections.
Typically, we'll put up a sign, parking corner, and, there is yellow or red curb. And we get a lot of complaints when we go out and paint curbs sometimes. So we've gone more to the sign that says no parking from here to the corner. Or, in some other areas, I think we've put, no SUVs, vans, or, trucks from here to the corner, so that it lowers the profile of the vehicle a little bit and provides some more of that height, distance. If, our city engineer was here, he would tell you that they use an arc of sight distance, 30 arc of sight distance, and he could explain that in a little more detail than I can. But,
So if we wanted, city staff to go drive around and find areas, intersections of concern, how would we make that happen?
well, we do drive around sometimes, and we do respond to, citizen concerns. Typically, they'll get on our webpage, and it'll come to our office. We'll forward it around. Dave and I will probably go take a look, or Dave and Max or somebody in the office will take a look and see what the sight distance is. Typically, we roll our city engineer in as well to make sure it meets our road standards, and then go from there. But if the car is parked in the no parking zone, then we usually call the chief and that we have a car in an area that they shouldn't be, and then typically an officer is deployed to go write a ticket.
Maybe we just keep it simple to start off with and focus more on this first intersection of Dixon and 131st, and just kind of go to take a look at that and do some, whatever we can, set up some kind of, let's watch it for a couple weeks closely, and see if that's exactly what the problem is. Somebody's parking too close to that stop sign, because the gentleman, I don't think he's here tonight, that brought that up last meeting, he was very concerned about the safety, and it seems like if all it is a line of sight because a car's parking there, then, instead of making it bigger than it needs to be right now, like, I agree that we should look at everything else, but in the short term, let's just try to solve this intersections issue.
I think his main concern actually was that the cars are parking on both sides of the street, and when somebody's coming down, there's only room for one car to go, if I'm remembering it correctly.
Is there no parking signs on?
No, parking on both sides. I drove it on my way in the meeting.
But I think there should be no parking.
On the south side, no one parked on the north, which kind of surprised me. I think his issue was if someone's parked right on that stop sign at 131st and Dixon, especially turning right, going to head north, if there's a car parked, you can't see someone walking. You wouldn't be able to see a pedestrian, and I think that might have been more of a concern, was to see pedestrians.
But that's not really that's a vision clearance issue, not really a parking issue. So what he was bringing up, his big concern was that if you have the parking on the north side and the parking on the south side,
it pushes the vehicle into the middle of the intersection, and they won't go up to the stop sign to turn out. They'll just wait while people are trying to turn in. And he was concerned that we're going to get a head-on. If a car moves up to the line, stop sign, so that they can turn right out. He was concerned that there may not be enough room there to accommodate the parked vehicles, and the cars won't get up there. So he was asking us to limit off an area on the north side, further back from that stop sign, to allow the car to get up there and then kind of move over, if you will, further to the north and queue up at the stop sign.
That makes sense.
Yes, the cars on the back. So we would basically,
Driving it tonight, even though there's no cars there, that, yeah, it might.
maybe one or two parking spots.
I think that's a great idea. Yes. Does anybody else have any comments on? Yes, please. Yep. Oh.
That road would qualify as is right now, but for the sake of safety interest, I totally agree with Mr. Weston that the north side, it could come from that stop sign and yellow curve that back 30 feet, 20 or 30 feet, and I think that would provide a solution.
Do you need anything from us in order to make that happen?
Very fun hour.
I'll entertain a motion. Intersection of 131st and Dixon by painting a yellow line 20 feet from the stop sign.
You want to do that or signage?
Do you want to do that, or do you want a sign that would say no parking?
I recommend
Both? Why not, right? Yeah. If it's going to keep people safer, so it's probably a good idea.
The sign cost.
$40, $50.
The metal pole kind of sign, is that what you're talking about?
I mean, the sign itself is probably, $50, and then you have the pole and install and everything. I mean,
I'm just curious. I mean,
it's a couple $100.
When I think of the government putting in a sign, I think of thousands of dollars to put it on. So I just want to know.
Sometimes.
I don't think anything's really cheap when it's .gov.
Yeah, it just depends on if it's part of a road project where we're paying prevailing wage, or if it's, Dave and I can go out maybe.
I heard Gary volunteer.
Yeah, I heard a volunteer over here.
Yeah, Dave's looking for an intern.
Perfect. Done. Okay, so I will entertain a motion at this point. Would anyone like to? No?
So moved.
Gonna put in a sign and take a curve for how far?
About 30 feet.
On the north side.
Good request from the engineer, to have him gauge what the company.
I like that idea.
Let's do that.
Great idea.
So do we need a motion to do that?
Engineer's recommendation.
Yeah, why don't we have him put something together, and at our next meeting, we can vote to approve it? How does that sound? Okay, let's do that. Okay, anything else before we move on to the next item? Next item of business is the September 2024 financials. Hopefully everyone had a chance to review. If you haven't, let me know if you want to have a few minutes to review. Anyone that needs a few minutes? Does anyone have any questions before we have, is Mara going to go over this?
Sure, I was supposed to. She said there's nothing too shocking or surprising in this round, but hopefully you have her online at this point.
Yes. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hey, Mara.
Oh, hi.
Hi. The floor is yours.
Okay. Yes, let's take a look at the September 2024 financial statement summary. Yeah, so for September financials, we complete a bank reconciliation for two banks accounts, the US Bank and LGIP account, the staple account, and there's no errors in recording transactions. So let's take a look at the first one is the general fund. You can see in September, we receive less revenue. The revenue less than expenditure. So because as we all know the first 4 months before the property tax come in, and we have less, the revenue always less than the expenditure. So the 105,543 for the revenue, and then the expenditure is 232,000. So leave us the ending balance 3 million. So the next one is the street fund. In the street fund, it's pretty straightforward. We have the revenue coming in, and mostly only one is the state gas tax and the interest. So the total revenue in September is 30,675, and then the expenditure is 77,000, which because the street operations and we have the capital street improvement project. So the ending balance 564,664. And then the local levy. So again, in the local levy, the interest is negative because the previous balance was negative. So it's just the way we accrue interest. And then also the transfer out is we spread evenly. So every month we transfer 35,000 out of local levy to general fund. So leave us ending balance is negative. However, after September, November, we will see more property tax come in, then the number will change, all back to positive. The next one is the Park System Development Fund. There's no revenue coming in and just the interest, accrued interest. And then we transfer $833 out of and to general fund, yeah. So the ending balance is 370,755. And the next one is transportation SDC fund, our new fund. So again, there's no revenue coming in, just the interest, accrued interest $512. And then also we transfer 833 every month out of this one to general fund. So the ending balance here is 125,868. And also the last one is the TDT fund, Transportation Development Fund. So this one, again, yeah, no revenue coming in, it's just the interest and then the transfer out. So the ending balance is 690,749. Any question?
I had a couple questions.
Yes.
What's a privilege tax?
Where is it? The street fund?
Yeah, under street fund.
Yes, the street fund privilege tax is from PGE franchise fee. From PGE franchise fee.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that's
then,
the privilege tax we receive.
Okay, that's why is it called privilege tax and not PGE?
PGE franchise fee, there's two category. One is franchise fee, we put it in general fund. Another one is privilege tax, we put it in the street. It's just the way we do. Yeah.
Okay. And then the franchise fee for clean water services,
Mhm.
why is that a zero?
Oh, we
Do we
haven't
get that
received yet.
annually or quarterly?
Correct, yes, we annually.
Annually,
Yes.
got it.
Mm-hmm. So we budgeted 2,000. That's about that amount each year. This year we projected 72,000, but we haven't get it yet.
Okay, and then, Peter had a question or a comment, I think.
No, just the privilege taxes onto it. Because they're undergrounded and because we have to maintain those roads, then they pay into that, to help offset.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions for Mira?
Well, there isn't a line item for legal fees. And I just think the council should be aware of how much we're expending for legal fees to provide proper oversight. I know a couple months ago, the legal fees were $96,000, give or take. This month they're $5,400. If you could provide next month how much we've spent on legal fees for the calendar year, and also how much did we expend for defending the appointment of Smarta Choli to the city council? If you could provide that next month. Thank you.
Is that something you can do, Mira?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I can't hear.
Microphone on? No, it's off.
Yeah.
There you go. Maybe speak in.
Can you hear me now, Mayor?
Yes.
Can you hear him now? Okay.
Well, I was kind of winging it, so I'll try to repeat mostly what I said. I guess I can skip most of it. Can next month, you provide the total legal fees we've had for the calendar year 2024? You also provide how much was expended defending the appointment of Smarta Choli to the city council?
Sure.
Provide that next month.
Sure, yes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any questions for Mira? Or comments or concerns? Okay, thank you, Mira.
Thank you.
We'll talk to you next month.
All right.
Okay. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve the September 2024 financials.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. And what we've all been waiting for, resolution number R2024-16, resolution of the City Council of the City of King City, Oregon, recognizing the need for necessary infrastructure and land acquisition to support the West Side Trail segment, Walton River Trail, and Kingston Terrace projects. The presenter is Mike Weston, City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess we'll try to answer some questions that were asked earlier. If I missed your question, I apologize, but I'll try to get through. I had Mr. Slack's email that was forwarded to me that asked some questions about what the resolution is, what it does. It is a resolution. It does not authorize the staff to blanketly go out and acquire property. That still takes the council motion, council process. What it does do is it allows us to go negotiate with property owners. Ronnie, will you do me a favor and bring up a aerial of King City, and then we'll have the potential property map that's rough, but it kind of gives you an idea of what we're kind of working on. Ms. Mobley mentioned the property at 137th. Yes, under our concern, that is one. There is the West Side Trail, of course, the property at the tail end of 131st Street. There is the municipal property out at the New Home Company development, as well as all the park property along out in the new. There's also the Harrell and O'Daly property that has been put under, I don't know if they quite have a full development agreement with New Home yet, but they're looking at that property as potential park property. That would be a piece Halloran property is looking at, pushing a piece property to the city at the end of their development as well. We'll need to move on that one as well. There's also a number of properties, that may create concerns or issues. The Onstead property, which is located at Elsner and, Roy Rogers, has been kind of identified as a potential, stormwater, and trail connection as well. So I'll just here's Kingston Terrace and King City as a whole. And if you'll just bear with me right now, we have a riverfront trail that starts over here at 99W, or is projected to start as part of our TSP. It would go from 99W, follow the Clean Water Services, right of way over to 131st, from 131st up to Bedford to King City Park, eventually over to River Lane to Watson all the way down, and then over into the Kingston Terrace Town Center, and potentially into the Metro. I call this the Metro Thumb, Deep End Holding, or something like that. Metro owns it, but that trail would essentially connect into this potential. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That'll be something Metro has to figure out. It's outside of our urban growth boundaries, so it's outside of our urban limits. The Onstead property is right down here. The Harrell and O'Daly properties are in here. Then you have Harvey. There's another property owner in here, Mr. Meyer, Bankston, and then you're into Rivermead area here. Along this area is the West Side Trail, so we are looking at trying to acquire that property. This is property that we've been looking to acquire for ever since I've been here. We have traffic congestion problems at our school zone on 131st Street that we know of. We also have a potential issue coming up here at the corner with this development, Kensington Square development and annexation request that has now been submitted. Charlene Woods is deemed complete now and is looking at developing. And so essentially we have development throughout the Kingston Terrace area that's coming online and will continue to come online over the coming years. We're currently applying for RAPA money. I don't exactly know what the RFFA stands for right now, excuse my mind. But with that is essentially an $8 million project where we would acquire some federal funds, some INSTEP funds, to do the West Side Trail and the infrastructure component subbed out that was mentioned earlier. We wouldn't necessarily have all the park stuff online right away, trail, and the infrastructure stubs, water, sewer, and transportation stubbed over to 137. Those are strategic components that are called out in our transportation system plan in the Kingston Terrace Master Plan as Tier 1 projects that we knew we would need to be done within the first 5 years, or around the first 5 years. So we estimated it would take anywhere from 5 years to get this project underway. It's probably going to take more than that. The RAPA money doesn't actually come into existence until 2028. And it's for the 2028 to 2030 funding window. In March or April, we started the Yellow Book appraisals. The council directed us to go get Yellow Book appraisals as a function of this process for the West Side Trail Plan. We currently have a Metro grant that's paying for this first, kind of like an overview park plan for the West Side Trail. That includes all the facilities that were mentioned earlier: parking, restrooms, play fields, basketball court, dog park, community garden, and those sort of things. That was approved by the Planning Commission last week, 5-2. That will be coming to the council for consideration in the near future on that plan. When you look at that plan, you can make amendments to it, you can reduce the scope of that. That'll all be coming to you probably in December as well. That is, like I said, it was part of a grant that we got from Metro. The deadline for completion on that grant is December 31st. So we are trying to meet our deadline for that grant. If it's something that the council feels that they can't accomplish, then we'll need to go back to Metro and tell them that we can't meet their deadline. I'm sure they'll be amenable to that if that is something that is but as we move forward, as this resolution, it is basically an administrative tool that cities use. We basically took this resolution from the city of West Lynn, Clean Water Services, and others, and then pieced it together for what our needs would be in Kingston Terrace. And like I was mentioning earlier, we have the park strip, which is here, the municipal property that's here, Harrell and New Daily property, the Olmsted property, the West Side Trail, and then this property at the corner is essentially a huge problem coming our way that we might have to take sooner rather than later. And we have the Washington County parcel that's at the end of 131st that we're looking at. And then eventually we need to figure out that right of way over to 99W and eventually over to Roy Rogers. A lot of that right of way acquisition will be subsequent with development. So as development comes on, we anticipate that that's when we'll try to acquire those pieces. So a lot of it might not happen right away. But it may transpire over a period of time along with the adjacent development of the parcel. And yet, just I want to acknowledge that things are moving faster than we anticipated. They are moving faster than we anticipated. I didn't expect the property at 137 to be sold and moving as quickly as they thought. We honestly looked at this and we thought that it would start on the west and would progressively work its way east. What it's looking like now is that the large parcels on the west are going like we anticipated, and a large segment of the parcels along Beast Bend are going as we anticipated. And with those parcels along Beast Bend from about 150th to 137th, we will need infrastructure connections. So I think that kind of addresses some of those questions, but I did want to get to Black's questions here. Authorization to acquire property rights without further approval of council, that is a no. Does this resolution give authority to the city staff to pursue all grants without further approval from this council? That is also a no. Several places in the Edgewater and Walton property appraisal, including 61 detailed description of the proposed takings. Yes, the Yellow Book appraisal for a city, and as a Yellow Book appraisal for a city, it's drafted with the intention of setting the stage for potential condemnation. It doesn't mean that's what we want to do. Our intent is to use the Yellow Book appraisals to give us a fair evaluation of those properties and then work with the property owners to acquire those properties. That's what the Yellow Book appraisal does. It doesn't kickstart eminent domain necessarily, but it is the foundation for which eminent domain is pursued. So any property that the city were to acquire, we would have to do a Yellow Book appraisal. And that Yellow Book appraisal would be drafted very similar to this, and that would be the language that you would find there.
Yeah, just to reiterate, this doesn't authorize staff to buy property. It doesn't authorize staff to use eminent domain. It authorizes them to have a conversation. If a future council decides to pursue Metro grant dollars, state parks dollars, or some other mix, this is the sort of appraisal that those entities would expect to see. And that proposal would kind of set forth. Ultimately, everything is reviewed by the council.
the reason we have an executive session specific to property acquisition is so that we can inform you of negotiations and so you can authorize the purchase, you know, in a final, in a public meeting. There would be a lot of conversations related to any of this. There are conditions that a property owner who is selling the property could ask for. That would be another thing. So if someone were to say, okay, we'll sell you this at this price, but there's a prohibition on the skate park. I'm not suggesting that's a good idea. That's something that could be said, and that's a conversation that the council could have as far as they wanted to pursue that or not. And not in King City, but in a lot of jurisdictions, I participated in park projects, and community priorities as far as what amenities they want change over the course of one of these decision arcs. Like a big one that I would name is pickleball. There were a couple of years where people badly wanted pickleball, and there was a lot of advocacy for pickleball. And then it was pickleball creates a lot of noise, particularly if you have like 8 courts, and suddenly it was like the exact opposite of advocacy for pickleball. So like, I don't know what the next sport trend is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be croquet or paddleball or whatever it is, but there's always enough flexibility in these park master plans that you can plug and play. It might be a soccer pitch versus 2 basketball courts, but there's always flexibility in there because I think there's a recognition that people's active outdoor recreation priorities change over time. The other reason to draft this as broadly as possible is that the developers meet their parks SDCs in one of 2 ways. Either they pay them to us, and then we use them as you instruct us to. Like, we have an opportunity to acquire this. We have this money in parks SDCs. Is that your priority? This is the tier 1 project. And then you as the council say yes or no. The other thing that they're able to do, potentially, and again, this requires your approval and authority, is they would say, we will construct this park on our property. We believe the value of it is X, and we will donate it, but we want some park SDC credits, which then is the next phase of their development. They're then able to use those parks. That is one tool that a city can, but does not have to use. Oftentimes, if private industry is building the park, it's being built at a lower cost, more affordable rate, because as a city, depending on the value, we have prevailing wage issues. So that's a reason that some cities decide to have those developers do those projects. So again, I wasn't planning on being here this evening, but saw some emails that were going around. And I just really wanted to clarify, you as a city council and the next city council are the ones that determine all of this. Obviously, we would want a willing property owner. There would be a negotiation. The appraisal doesn't always mean that's what gets paid, but that's why we negotiate. And again, we need these appraisals to actually get Metro and state and Washington County grant funds. You guys get to decide what grants to go for, not staff. I will just very briefly address this issue on 137. As far as future development, that has been flagged by Washington County. I've been going back and forth with Washington County staff as far as what an MOU might look like, how to address those issues. You've got two streets that are north of Beef Bend that aren't aligned with 137th, and you also have power poles, both BPA and PGE, like major lines on the north side of those roads. So that all creates issues as far as how do we solve this problem. We have the 2 parcels that are adjacent to 137th that abut Beef Bend that are not annexed into the city, that are extraterritorial. 137th is a county road. Beef Bend is a county road. They've indicated they want to continue to have authority over those roads. Our ability to do work extraterritorially can be limited, and then the parcels that are west of those two parcels abutting 137th and Beach Bend, that person is applying for annexation right now. So we have certain obligations under state law, we have the county making certain demands. Folks that are driving their car still have certain demands too. And we're gonna have to figure out how to solve it. So I think that's why that parcel was highlighted as we went through this, because this is an immediate issue that is coming in far earlier than I think you have an answer. And I don't have an answer for what that'll look like, but there will be community conversations.
And I'll just say, like, the other portion of this is the West Side Trail and the purchase of those properties and getting those pieces in city control is strategic in both not prohibiting the housing development on the other side from occurring. It's also strategic in the sense that we have essentially a $4 to $5 million project right now, which will turn into a $7 or $8 million, or is projected to turn into a $7 or $8 million or even $9 million project by 2030. So we're trying to, one, be efficient, two, be strategic, and three, get this property under our control so that we can develop that park, the trail, and the infrastructure stuff. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the park features are probably not going to happen right away. So each one of the park features we'll need to go and acquire a different grant for. And they have playground park grants, they have dog park grants, they have all sorts of grants out there that we'll be chasing from the staff end to see about funding those additional playgrounds and other uses throughout that area. Some might just be community placement grants through Metro that might allow us to do a community garden or something to that effect. A lot of that stuff is going to take a long time to be fully developed out, but we are trying to get the main pieces of infrastructure. One of the things that we heard a lot of was complaints about parking, not enough parking. So we tried to expand the parking along that. That was part of the last revision before the Planning Commission. So the plan that comes to the council next time will have additional parking along those alleyways. You'll see the playgrounds got moved and expanded a little bit. Community gardens got expanded a little bit. The nature park area was expanded a little bit. The ones that were less popular, the bike park and the skate park, those are a different shade, like they're lower priorities on our list. So top priorities from what our feedback was: playground, kayak boat launch, dog park. Those were the top three, followed by a community garden. Was it basketball court? The field and basketball court.
And we can have reasonable restrictions on the parking. So we can have parking prohibited during certain hours.
I mean, the idea is that so take for instance, our thought was you could have like a parking permit for that area. If you're a resident, you would get your permit and you could park there 24 hours, and it might help alleviate some of the parking constraints and concerns along the back alleyways. And if you are a non-resident, you wouldn't have a sticker or a tab, and so you wouldn't be able to park there after, a certain time frame whenever the park is closed. That's our thoughts on that, and this has been a long process coming. Mr. Stephen mentioned earlier that we were talking about this project all the way back in 2016, 2017. Mr. Casanova was the HOA president for Edgewater. We were talking to him about this back in 2018, 19, and 20. We've been discussing this exact thing for many years. It's just now, over the last year, that we were able to acquire the Metro grant to allow us to do a plan for that park area, which includes the trail. It didn't include the kayak launch, but we got a grant from Oregon State Marine Board to start some of the engineering and planning on the kayak boat launch at the end. So we are trying to continually move pieces forward. We are still trying to do what's the best for King City and the residents, and get these parks and other structures prepared, ready, because it is moving faster than we anticipated, and we're trying to get ready.
Okay, counselors. Our opportunity to discuss
Yeah.
all the community concerns and, ask questions of the staff.
How many, public outreach meetings were there? And then there were several over the last.
Six.
So there's 6 opportunities for community to get out and.
Last year. Okay. So, and that was park specific. So you figure the west side, this is for the West Side Trail itself.
Yeah.
Over last year, we've had 6 for that.
I'm sure I come up with.
So on the resolution itself, there's a lot going on in this resolution, right? Is there a way to parcel some of these things into individual resolutions? Like, is it possible that something that has to be done for for Metro by the 31st, is there some way that we could parcel something out and put some other things on the table?
But however you want to do it, it's just going to make it more challenging for us to be ready, to be prepared, to go out and negotiate for acquisition of these properties. It's just going to make it more
Sure,
challenging.
I understand that, but my challenge here is there continues to be this disconnect. And I'm like, if everybody's just mad because there's a road gonna go through their neighborhood and they're gonna have a basketball court behind there, you know, we've got to solve that. You know, if it's other things, you know, I mean, but what I hear is, I hear a lot of noise. There's a lot of different things coming at us, and there's, you know, like when they said we haven't had public hearings, I feel like we've had public hearings over the years. You know, I feel like the neighborhoods have known what's going on, and if there's, the information isn't getting out and they're saying, oh, we still haven't had a chance to talk to everybody, most people don't even know what's going on. You know, that's confusing to me because this has been going on for so many years, right? So it confuses me when, you know, when people say the neighbors, I talk to my neighbors all the time, they have no idea what's going on in city government, right? They have no idea because who pays attention to it? Who does, right? Unless it's happening, changing something in your own backyard, right? I'm like, where's the 2,000 other residents in King City right now that probably don't give a rat's rear about what we're doing here because they just want to go to work every day and come home to a nice quiet neighborhood unless something's going to change. My challenge, though, is we've got some really upset people, and I just want to really make sure, Mike, that if we can postpone something, if we can pause and say, okay, well, we'll do this public hearing, we'll create whatever they want, let's give them the forum, but also we need to, but based on facts, not just, you know, like homeless camps are going to be built on some endless road, you know, that's just conjecture. You know, I mean, yeah, I worry about that too. My office downtown in Portland, you know, we have homeless camps up and down the street. I hate it. So I worry about that, but I kind of feel like the chief's going to take care of that and keep that from happening in our neighborhood. That's the nice thing about living in a small community. We can call the chief and how do we solve this, you know, right? But that's my only concern, Mike. And I know you're addressing things that are the legal pieces of it, right? But what we're not addressing is, like, we've got some passionate people here that are really angry, and I just kind of want to not make them angry. Like, what do we have to do? Because you told me the other day that, you know, I asked this question. I said, what if we did nothing? What if you did nothing? Like, we just said, okay, we'll put a hold on everything. What's the county going to do without our approval? And what did you respond with? Yeah, I'm putting you on the spot. Sorry about that.
If we do nothing, like if we do no.
Like, we want everybody to just go around King City to all the building that's going to happen out west. What if we said we're not going to do anything?
They won't allow it.
We don't have a choice.
They already put it in
But
writing.
see, like, some people think that we're lying when we say that. You know, but I don't think we are. I think that the county comes in at some point because you have all this growth going on out west, right? And every city, Tualatin, Sherwood, everybody's going to have to deal with the traffic that's going to want to go through all of our communities. So to me, it's like either we ignore it and put our head in the sand, or we decide that we're going to control how it's going to go through our city, right? We've got to have that choice. So it seemed to me like this plan came about because we thought Fisher, and we thought 131st and Fisher was the way to do it, right? Apparently not. You know, but of course, if I lived on the road, I'd be upset too, right? I mean, if you put it through Bedford right now, I'd be pretty sad because I got a nice dead-end street and a park on the other side. I'm hoping that we don't change that. But if we did, you know, you got to take a look at the big picture sometimes. Change is going to happen, right? The only constant in our world, right?
I think if we did nothing, right, Taggart would take it, and it'd be River Terrace 3.0.
Yeah.
River Terrace Boulevard, plow them right through.
And so do we want to control our growth of the city? Now, I do, and I think everybody in this room really does want to. I really believe that they do, but there's so much, they don't? No. You'll get to next month or in January.
Yeah, you're gonna get a earful.
You know, but my point is, and this isn't, I'm not trying to open up for discussion, guys. All I'm just saying to Mike is if there's a way that we can look at something close to try to get past, you know, get to the point where, you know, I'm sorry if we're not gonna, I mean, I don't know what the rest of the board is, you know, I'm like on this resolution, it's confusing to me a little bit because it came at so fast and you're like, oh, this is a rush, and I don't like to be rushed on anything, you know, but I feel like we need to, as a city, take a slow down and go, hey, you know, what's pissing everybody off that we're not doing?
Maybe we just pause it until next month, right? We can, you know, get more time to go through the resolution and get it more dialed in.
One of the things that I've noticed is we probably have 20 or 30 people here that have 20 or 30 different needs. One of them is kids laughing and screaming and having a good time. I live in a community where I would love to hear kids laugh and scream and have a good time because they just aren't there. So to me, that doesn't sound like a need. I'm sure you do have a need for it. So the question is, how do we make everybody happy? Because that's our problem. How do you guys make everybody happy? Is there any one way that we can make somebody happy?
With our particular HOA and a macro level, assessing the value of the property, having that voice being heard, which is having the voice of the community being heard, like assessing the value of that property and making sure that if this has to happen, then we all do it together.
Sorry, we're not opening
Yeah,
up to.
I want to open it. No, I didn't.
Anyway, Jenny, are you done with your?
It just is a conundrum that we all have.
Yeah.
And I don't know that we're.
It was a rhetorical question. How do you make everyone happy? That's the question. It's impossible, is the answer, right?
Could I really quickly? And I know that I don't make everyone happy. But what I can say that we could add to this.
Hey, Peter, can I pause you for a second? I'm sorry, Ms. Braverman, but you've distracted me probably 10 times tonight.
That was me.
Okay. The next time I hear whispering over here, I'm going to have to ask you to leave because it's very distracting and we're trying to do city business here. Okay, ladies? Thank you. Okay, that's it. Okay, thank you. All right, Peter, please.
We can specify that the city manager doesn't have the authority to purchase property or use eminent domain. I mean, this gives him the authority to initiate a conversation, and that's how any negotiation starts. So that's what I was going to say.
Yeah. It seems like that's the biggest fear that I've been hearing from community members is eminent domain. And
I don't see that word anywhere in this resolution.
That's a scary term,
Yeah.
and nobody likes hearing that term. So how do we make that happen, Peter?
Chairman, too, because that's exactly what I was going to say. an administrative tool that we would use to open negotiations for the purchase of property. That's what this resolution does. It allows the staff to move forward, it allows our consultants to continue the discussions and move the football downfield, essentially.
All right, if we go then to move to the resolution, could we, I guess, direct to put that verbiage in?
We could add it to number 3. We could specifically say, because it says initiate, but that means different things to different people. And so we could add a sentence that says city manager does not have the authority to acquire property absent council consent or to use eminent domain, which legally he could. Right. And legally he can't buy property either unless you authorize him to. But if we need to say that so everyone understands the scope of what he can do, I think that's a good idea.
I do too. I think it's a great idea.
And that's what my point was. This doesn't give me any authorization other than what's already out there. It just allows us to go negotiate for these properties. Any sort of property purchase still has to come before this council.
Right.
Any eminent domain process still has to go through the process. And
yeah.
so each thing has its own process, but what it does allow us to do is not throw our money away that we paid for the Yellow Book appraisal and keep the negotiations going. That negotiation process might take a few months, it might take a year. I don't know how long that's going to take, to be honest with you.
Well, thank you. I mean, you understand all of this very thoroughly, but the layperson does not. So I think this resolution was scary for a lot of people because it was very broad. And I think if we can get a little more clarity and thick about the process within the resolution, that could be helpful, like what Peter mentioned.
I think if we just specifically say council, as far as exploring funding opportunities, Mike will figure out what's available. He'll bring the options to the council. Like, we don't apply for grants without the council instructing us to apply for grants. So I think it sounds like we need to add that sentence. Seems like we need to add the property acquisition eminent domain sentence specifying that he doesn't have the authority absent city council approval. And so the number 2 is a little bit trickier because what Metro is looking for is that, so the SDCs that we collect for these areas, I think the idea is that those are spent in the area versus like if we wanted to redevelop something in the KCCA. So that's why that number 2 has that language, identifying priority projects, because that's like the next round of parks and options. But I think we could flesh that out and say because SDCs are being paid in from these areas, that's why these things are the priority projects. Maybe we could remove the word urgent. People seem to be kind of concerned about that.
Urgent was in there because of the December 31st date, right?
Well, and to be clear, like, we don't necessarily have to purchase the property before December 31st. We have probably, at least a year or so before we need to have all of our ducks in a row for the federal funding. So we have some time, and, we want to.
We've got 4 years. I mean, we wouldn't get these grant funds until 28. So we would ideally have this sorted by 27, but it's not. But as far as getting through, like, the planning process, and I think we need to add language to that Parks Master Plan specifying that these things are placeholder, like the basketball court's a placeholder for active outdoor recreational amenity of that approximate size. And so that's how I've structured it in other cities where we didn't have clarity necessarily on what, is it going to be a tennis court? Is it going to be a whatever? And so we would do dimensions, and that's one way that then you can continue having this community conversation.
That's assuming that we buy the property for the park. So if they decide not to sell us the property, then what's our next plan?
Well, we attended the HOA meeting in September, I want to say it was, and the legal counsel for the HOA had mentioned that it's highly unlikely that they'd be able to get a full 80% vote on just about anything, and he was advising them that the city or county would have to use their own mechanisms to acquire those lands. We don't want to do that. That's not our preferred mechanism. We want to see it move forward in a cooperative manner to try to acquire the property. But we also can't halt all development in Kingston Terrace because they want to try to stop a road connection at Fisher or a road connection at Catlett or something to that effect. So we still are going to get to a point somewhere sooner or later where we need to negotiate the purchase of the property. Now, we can negotiate the purchase of that property for the whole trail and those infrastructure components, or we can negotiate the purchase of the property that we need for the road right-of-ways, and it will be a much smaller chunk of money.
Well, when I read about the process of acquiring necessary lands, I had the same reaction as a lot of the audience, community. Those who know me, I bring this up regularly about eminent domain. I dug up some of the things I've been told by the council or by its representative. Roads aren't going to be built until property owners sell. We don't dictate property owners how they develop their property. We provide the general guidance. It's up to property owners to take that guidance and actually develop their property if they want to, or just sit on it. If there's a properties out there throughout the world where everything around them has developed, but they are still standing strong on their 5, 10, 15 acres, and nothing happens to that piece happening all around. Only willing sellers. We can wait for a change in ownership, even generational change. Condemnation is rarely used in a highly unlikely scenario. Last thing I'll reiterate is that all of this is in the hands of the property owners. If they don't sell their lands and develop, none of this will occur. I think we have very consistently said that unless Mike M. and Carla B. sell their property to someone who wants road connectivity, it is incredibly unlikely that the road will be developed. The city does not have the funds to pay for eminent domain, and I expect there would be significant litigation if an attempt was made. It circles back to how much are we spending on litigation and legal fees. Ultimately, Mike and Carla have the most control of the outcome, far more than the city. That is true currently and will likely remain true. Just some of that, the community's been hearing that for several years. We will not use eminent domain, and now it's big leap to, we're gonna use it. And to say we're not, we're gonna only have willing sellers, but if they aren't willing to sell, then we're gonna use eminent domain, kind of makes that an empty. That's what I hear, and that's what a lot of the community hears. That's why there's this mistrust.
Can we just correct that? Because I don't think we've ever said we wouldn't use eminent domain. We said it would be a last resort. And I also believe that we also said that the West Side Trail is different in the fact that it's really not a property that can be developed because of all the easements and constraints on that. And really, it's those last mile connections is what we're talking about. And otherwise, I think a lot of those statements that you mentioned are true. That's exactly what we said, and most of them. There's some nuances there that I think need to be corrected. But, you know, I do believe that Mike and Carla have the most control over the future extension of Fisher Road beyond
River Lane.
River Lane and Walk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
most of these quotes are yours or some of the city councilors.
Yeah, and, well, I don't think we're even discussing trying to purchase those properties right now. This resolution is simply to allow us to go and negotiate to acquire properties that we're gonna need for the municipal site, for the parklands, for the other parklands over in the Kingston Terrace area, for trails, for the West Side Trail, for the Tualatin River Trail, for the property at 131st. Is the resolution that allows us to go and do that, or at least says that we have the council's support to go acquire those properties.
I'm looking at the properties told me personally that we would only use willing sellers. We could wait for a change in ownership or even generational change.
I agree that is true to the most part, except for the West Side Trail area and the extension of Fisher Road over to 137.
We are going to have to come up with, I don't know what the fix is gonna be, but there is an issue with 137. I mean, I can just tell you that based on the conversations I have had with county staff, I'm not saying things are immediately coming to a head, but, again, both those roads belong to the county. There's property that's not within the city, there's property that's trying to develop, and everything's coming to a head. So, as far as a road, I mean, I agree with almost everything you read. I mean, I've always believed that the Myers and Bankston properties, that a road would not be extended through those unless there was development, because there's just no way it could work. But what I've also said is that this city council can say they won't use eminent domain, and that's your decision. But what you can't do is bind a future city council. So I can't say that it would never happen in the future, but that next city council can make a decision as far as what they're going to do. And if they decide to leave $4 million on the table so that this trail doesn't get built, then that's their decision too. And it's the vision and values of, I'm just a lawyer. Like, you guys are what sets the vision and values. You give me my marching orders, and then I do them. That's what I did for Mayor Gibson. He had a vision. It was not shared by many people in this room, but it was shared by a majority of the city councilors, and that's what we executed. So if the next city council is like, stop, yeah, we can control some things, but Washington County can control some things too. And so that would have to be a negotiation, because Metro governs us well. So it's not completely within our control, but they will have some control. And you guys do too. So we can add some language to this to clarify exactly what Mike can't do. And, if you legally can't do that,
Yeah, I think,
hopefully that will make it, at least have a better understanding of what this does and doesn't do.
I think that's important. I think it's imperative that we rework this resolution.
Can we ask Metro for a 30-day extension off of December 31st?
For the West Side Trail, the plan?
Mm-hmm. Can we ask them for a 30-day extension?
I can
Just
call
say we need 30 days. We've got a new board coming on, and, we want to vote on this, or give the new board, let them come on board and find out, get a dose of what this is like, and then make that choice. I mean, I'm just asking the question.
We can ask,
Because it sounds like we're gonna have a day anyway where we gotta rewrite some things. We can't vote on the resolution if we're gonna rewrite it tonight, right?
We can put it in motion to.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's what my recommendation would be, is to propose a resolution with the amendments that Mr. Watts has proposed. And then we can still move it forward and start our negotiation process. It's still gonna be a long process. I don't see this transpiring anytime soon. The HOA, the Edgewater HOA is still gonna have time to go get their appraisals if that's what they'd like to do. Their prices, and we're gonna have to negotiate and go.
Okay.
Personally, I think I would be more comfortable seeing the actual written changes than just this discussion before we vote. So I would rather vote at the December meeting.
So there's only one line change, right?
There's a few things in there that should be changed.
Yeah. I think, my opinion is, I agree with Councilor Tyso. I think this should not be voted on this evening. I think we should rework this resolution and give it the attention that it deserves, because our community members are here, demanding that, and my opinion is that we need to listen to our community members on this one and do right by them. That's my opinion. Nope, I'm sorry, you can.
One question, it won't take long.
I'm sorry, yeah, because if I let you, then I let everyone. So we're discussing this. That's my opinion. I think Counselor Tyso shares the opinion. Counselor
I would agree with
Olson
that.
shares the opinion, and Counselor Wallison. So, so I'm not going to ask for a motion to approve this resolution, but instead I'm going to ask that the city staff rework the resolution, taking into consideration the concerns of the community members, what we spoke about, to alter the resolution so that it's more specific to what the powers of the city manager and the city staff are and what they are not allowed to do without our consent. Does that sound to everyone? Okay, great, thank you. Okay, moving right along to the police chief's report.
All right, I just got one item just to discuss with something that we've been looking at for quite some time, and it's the Lexipol policy manual in place, but starting in 2025, entering into with the Northwest Accreditation Alliance to accreditate the department. And so what this is it's basically they come in and do accreditation based off of 104 standards that are placed. This is their manual right here. And it starts with self-assessment where we basically answer the questions that they have in there, and then there's in-person inspections. And then it's submitted to the Northwest Accreditation Alliance and then for approval or not. You have up to 2 years to get it done. Most agencies, depending on their size, it takes 6 to 18 months. It's going to be me doing it basically, I think, by myself. So I'll probably be more in the 12 to 18 month range to complete everything that gets done. The cost for the accreditation is being taken care of by a grant through the Northwest Accreditation Alliance for the next 4 years. The yearly cost depends on the size of the agency. Basically, with the cost for us being a smaller agency is less. We do have to acquire what's called Power DMS, which is a policy and records management software. That's cost $550. That's the only money we put out, but we get reimbursed by the alliance. And so the yearly cost will be around $1,800 once that grant. Basically, everybody's like, oh, what happens with the accreditation meeting? Basically, it's just, every standard is judged and looked at as the ability to make the agency more professional while at the same time. It's just it's a uniform set of best practices, which the Lexipol policy manual does, but this also tells you that, where does Northwest Alliance get its accreditation information from, and it comes from CALIA, which is the gold standard at a national level. And that's about it. So it's going to be a project, probably be my last, but it'll be one that we do and work hard on here. And then, one of the things that Northwest Accreditation Alliance is currently going to try to, and they're lobbying for with like CIS to, a lot of this will help reduce liability and risk to hopefully get some break on our insurance premiums that we have to pay, because currently we don't. Any of these accredited agencies do not breaks from CIS. CIS is, we have 85 or 90% of the cities in Oregon. So it's something that hopefully that it will pay off in that work. Any questions on that?
No, that's interesting. I didn't realize that about CIS. It seems like if you're accredited, you should absolutely get a break in your insurance.
Yeah, you would think especially with Lexipol and with
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any questions for the Chief? Thanks so much. Thanks for all that you do for us. City Manager's report.
We have a few things going on. Recommending that we probably go to 2 meetings in December now based on our discussion tonight. We have what was just a couple things has now turned into 3 things on the agenda tonight going into December as well. So that's going to create a a big issue in December, and we're gonna need to figure out how to deal with that. So, I'm recommending that we do, 2 meetings in December now. So maybe you can mark your calendars and figure out how that's gonna work, or what days work for you. We have December 20th already for interviews, but we still have at least 5 things that I had on the docket. I had a couple things on the docket, but now we'll have the West Side Trail presentation will come to the council. You'll have the Dixon and 131st. We resolved that today, or we're still gonna have our
Yeah, I think.
the Yellow Book appraisals will have to come back, the resolution will have to come back, supplemental budget will need to come before the council. We also have, audit is wrapping up, and we're starting another chapter in the audit book. We have our charter committee, which is still, floundering, not quite taking off. Kingston Terrace Development is, working on phase 1 and 2 out there. That's the property at the corner of Roy Rogers and Beef Bend. You'll see that they've done some additional right-of-way clearing over the last couple of days. That's for the road improvements there at Roy Rogers and Beef Bend. The LWI, the local wetland inventory process, is currently under review by the Department of State Lands, and it's there until they finish their review. So that was another one that we had to get an extension on. So, we had a good excuse because DSL was backed up, so it wasn't necessarily on our shoulders, it was on somebody else's shoulders. So we were able to get an extension on that one. Shoreland Farms, this is the property that is, east of Elsner, between Elsner and what equates to about 154th, 155th, has been deemed complete, and that subdivision application will be moving forward to the Planning Commission, probably in January. 137th Kensington Square, you heard us mention earlier, is pending problem, but there's only so much that we can do legally. As Mr. Watts was mentioning, we do not own 137th, we do not own Beef Bend. We do not own the properties at the corner. So we can't force them to cooperate on that, and so far the developer's not interested in purchasing the 2 properties on the corner, and they have a traffic impact analysis that says that they don't need to, so.
I have a question for you. So if the county owns those roads, and it's their responsibility to maintain them, why isn't it their responsibility to make the improvements?
As we are, the Dolan V. Tiger, and now there's another one out, I forget what the name of it is, but it limits what kind of extraction a city or county or any kind of government can make on a developer or a development. In this situation, the impacts of this development are not going to reach the level of extraction that we need to force them to do an intersection improvement at that intersection.
And is that why they don't want to purchase those other properties, or are those other properties
I'll say that's my.
are they for sale?
I've talked to the owner, and they are willing to potentially sell. They just want to make sure that they get a decent value for their.
Sure.
Just one quick question, we, the King City, we annexed the south part of East End Road,
That's correct.
but we don't own it.
Don't know. It's the same as Fisher Road right now. Fisher Road is owned by Washington County, it's not owned by King City. That's why the intersection of 99W and Fisher Road is one that is not necessarily listed and identified in our TSCs as being our project, Washington County or Oregon Department of Transportation project. Beef Bend and Roy Rogers, also Washington County. Elsner, we transferred some of the jurisdiction to Elsner, so that's now our road. And our thought is a number of these roads will transition jurisdictional authority as they are annexed into the city. In this particular situation, you have the property all around that corner being annexed by the property owners. And under just annexing the properties that they have under control. And it puts Washington County in a bit of a predicament, and legally, there is only so much we can extract from them. Unfortunately. Any other questions on it? FEMA has come up with some new regulations, going to have some impact for us. Max has been working on those, along with Keith Leiden, to try to draft some of these FEMA regulations. There's a model ordinance that we'll probably need to bring forth and try to pass. It has some amendments to flood zone impact setbacks and a whole bunch of other stuff that is going to create some challenges for us, I believe. The governor has asked FEMA to put a hold on their requirements, and I haven't seen what FEMA's response to the governor's letter is yet. It's a big concern for us, a big concern for a number of the communities. Finally, we're still working on the climate-friendly, equitable communities ordinance that Max is also working on. That's basically going to include some parking regulations that we have to pass to bring things into compliance, along with some environmental, energy efficiency components to housing stocks and things like that. So, those are kind of summing up what we've been working on, and that's the tip of the iceberg.
Thank you. Going back to December's meetings, this might be a good time to schedule those. And originally, we had December 18th as a date for a council meeting. Then we've moved it to the 20th.
Has been moved to the 20th? Nice.
Well, we talked about that in the executive session that we had this week.
Sure, I don't know.
Well, there was a lot happening. What we haven't decided on is a time for the 20th, but I think what I'm hearing you say is that we need actually 2 meetings in December.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry?
Either the 4th or the 11th.
Well, if the 4th, then you're basically preparing the packet on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yeah, that's too soon.
And
It's my daughter's birthday.
Well, that's my wedding anniversary.
No.
Y'all have to tell my wife that.
My daughter has an orchestra concert, and all the kids have training events
When is this? The 12th?
Thursday.
Are people still available on the 18th?
I'm available on the 18th.
Yeah, I can make it.
I thought you were going to be out of town.
I don't know at this point.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of things going on at work.
18th is hard for me. My daughter's in a concert that night. But I'm just wondering, can we adjust the time on the 18th? Like 4 o'clock?
4:30.
Sounds like you're negotiating.
I get off work at 4, so that's why.
Well, what if we started at 4 and you joined at 4:30? I might have to leave early anyway to get to her concert. 4 o'clock? Yes, Denny?
I'm gone from the 5th to the 26th.
That's right. You'll be out of town.
From the 5th till
Well, if you're able to join over Zoom, that would be great. If you can't, then we understand. It's a busy time of year. Does that work for you? 4 o'clock on the 18th?
Yeah, and the 20th was at 6?
Well, we haven't decided on the 20th.
Probably.
But I can't do the evening of the 20th. We had talked in the executive session about doing during the day on the 20th. Because that's the Friday before Christmas.
Oh, bummer. Yeah, I'm flexible at this time.
Okay, good. Thank you. So 4 o'clock on the 18th. Might have to leave early, but we can start at 4:00. Gary will get here when he can, and Denny will hopefully try to be on Zoom. And then on the 20th, I would prefer that we do it during the day, the workday, which will be hard for people. I understand that it's Friday before Christmas, and I'm headed out of town.
Or too late again?
Well, this is when we're going to do council interviews, so it's going to depend on how many applications we receive. If we get 2 applications, it's going to be a short meeting. If we get 20, it's going to be a long meeting. So I'm not sure. I mean, how to do that, how to schedule that. I was hoping for like a noon, like a lunchtime.
What, lunchtime Zoom or regular? Where we?
I'll be in person. I would like to be in person for the interviews, but people can do it. It can be a hybrid. Yeah.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
So what time are you saying?
I remember you said last week that Friday was good for you, the 20th during the day.
Anytime after 10. Or 10.
You do during the day on the 20th?
I can do it, noon is, difficult.
Is that?
One would be better.
Okay. Okay. Do 1:00.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'll add that to our calendars now before we forget. So 1:00, so we need to make sure that we let all the applicants know, let the community members know that we will be conducting interviews on Friday, December 20th, starting at 1:00. Hopefully we'll get a lot of great people applying, and hopefully we'll be able to find someone great to appoint that day. But if for some reason we don't all agree on someone to appoint that day, then it will have to carry over to January. And we'll fill the position as soon as the majority of the council agrees on someone to fill that position.
I did just have one last thing that.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm.
I'll be hopefully rolling in, revised figures for the union negotiations, so there might be, that piece coming at you as well. And then, hopefully adding a couple strategic positions that we discussed, public information officer and another officer, possibly a sergeant position.
Thank you for the heads up. I need to finish adding city council. So our next city council meeting will be 4 p.m. on the 18th. Great. Is that all you have for us, Mike? Does anybody have any questions for Mike that we haven't already discussed tonight? Okay. Councilor reports. I'm going to start on my right. Or Councilor Olson, would you like to get us started?
I'm good.
Okay. No, or President Manolis?
Yeah, so let's see. I was at the, Morgan City's conference, and so they came out with their, their legislative priorities for the 25-26. And I'll just kind of give the basics of the, and it's in no particular order. Community infrastructure and housing development, a 2025 transportation package, recreational immunity, behavioral health enhancements, lodging tax flexibility, shelter funding and homeless response, address energy affordability challenges, operator and training apprenticeships, and the Johnson B. Grants Pass. How that's going to play out. So that's going to be the LOC's focus this legislative session.
Councilman Else, did you get a date or time on when the legislative session starts?
This legislative session starts in January. Let's say,
I think it's the third week, isn't it?
Yeah,
So Fairbrooke and Kenyon are.
I think it was right after MLK.
21st,
Yeah. But I'm
sounds right.
not positive. I think this is a long session.
It'd be a good time for us to go burn some shoe leather down there.
Yeah, it was either the 22nd or the 29th is the city days, the capital.
So I think registration will take up on that
In January.
You're gonna go to that?
Yeah.
You went to that last year, right? Well, thank you for representing us, King City, at the conference.
Yep. And that was all I had.
Councilor Tyso?
Okay. Well, I wrote up a little bit about, the roundtable meeting that I attended on the 8th. And, hopefully everybody who showed up thought it was useful. One lady who lives in King City would like King City to have its own zip code, and her frustration is when you try to fill out forms and it tries to say you're either Tigard or Portland even. And it's frustrating. And so actually I said, well, I'm already talking to somebody about that. Grief. Okay, sorry. And then, Mike Jones, has been, he sort of brought up the King City expansion plans that he's sort of been aware of since 2008. And he used to be employed by Washington County, and he was, very knowledgeable, and he, and so it was nice to have somebody with a lot of knowledge and a very reasonable tone of voice to talk. And that's one of those things I think Mike Meyer does very well. He comes with knowledge and a very congenial tone of voice. And it's a lot easier to absorb the information that way. So I really appreciate it. And Dawn Mobley was there, and she was concerned about how quickly things were developing and about the transportation plan in general. And so we had this long map there of the West Side Trail, the table where all those chairs are now. And so, I saw Dawn and Mike putting their heads together, trying to do some real problem solving and back and forth conversation. And so to me, that was very valuable, and I appreciate being able to be a witness to that. So I thought that was great. And then the public affairs officer, and I didn't catch her name, from Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue came and just sort of talked a little bit to us about the fire district and what they do and kind of how they see the future happening, particularly placing another station in our new municipal area. And then MPAC, Metropolitan, I forget what that MPAC stands for. I was mad by the end of that night in that I had RSVP because they said, hurry up, RSVP, because this is going to be an in-person meeting. So I didn't get the memo that said the in-person meeting had been canceled. So I fought rush hour traffic to get over to Metro. It took me almost an hour to get there. And the place was dark. The doors were locked. And finally I got somebody on the telephone, and she said, oh, didn't you know we changed it to just Zoom, and we didn't have very much to talk about, so the meeting's over already. So I drove back home. Anyway, but that's neither here nor there. But I am our representative for Washington County Community Development Block Grants. And so, all of the funding that they have done for 23-24 fiscal year has been, allocated, and all of the grantees have been, really on target with their development. They've spent their development dollars, appropriately, and, like, saying that we're going to place 15 people in permanent housing, just as one example. And they've met all their goals, so, and so they are ready to, open up a new round of block grants. And the block grants, tend to, be awarded in areas where it's low income or ignored places that really need help. And so, I'm kind of, I feel honored to be on the committee and to help make recommendations as to which grants are, the most worthy. I mean, all of them are worthy. But then you have to decide, well, where are you going to get the most bang for your buck? And so, anyway, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Counselor Watson? Okay. Counselor Gilpin?
Seeing as I won't be here, I'd like to wish everybody Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Thank you. I am part of a group of community members that is meeting. I wasn't able to attend the first meeting. I think I was out of town, but we're meeting tomorrow night. So it's a group that was put together. I think, Steve, are you part of the group with the developers? Yeah, the community dialogue group. So you're part of the group as well? Mike, you're part of the group. So, yeah, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Also, I'll be able to attend tomorrow as to how the first meeting went. But basically what it is it's kind of a community think tank, problem solving with a professional moderator, basically, that is bringing together all these kind of maybe opposing views, I'm going to call it, give a better term, but seems like New Home Company and I'm blanking on what Mark's company is called. Mark Farrar. Metropolitan Land Group, yep. They've been kind of catalysts to bring together these different community members that represent kind of different parts of King City. And I think they've been really helpful in creating a dialogue for us to talk and try to problem solve kind of on just a community-based level. So I'm going to try to attend that meeting tomorrow night and look forward to helping come up with some solutions and help ease kind of some of the tension. We've been meeting, a lot of these people we've been meeting over the last months, maybe 9 months. And it's been good, at least for me, to see the community's perspective and maybe for the community members to see other perspectives. That's what I'm working on. I wanted to ask, is the Charter Review Committee, is that something that you're appointed to, or is that something you just raise your hand and volunteer for? How does that process work?
They apply, and then we'll bring them to the council for appointment.
Okay. But we don't have any community members yet. And have they actually applied? Three people have applied, and have they been brought forward?
90.
They haven't been brought to us, though? And why is that?
Or 3 folks so far, and we need at least 9 seats.
So we can't get started until we have 9 members?
Good. Bring it forward.
I mean,
Maybe.
If you bring 3 on, then 4 more come, you're going to have to start almost from scratch again.
Right.
And then
Right. It just seems like getting 9 people to volunteer for something
Is too many.
It seems like it might be too many people.
Or the committee actually starts working. We can take a look at that language, but it's what it said in our resolution.
Yeah, let's amend that resolution. I'm thinking to 5 to 7 maybe, and maybe have it.
I thought it was a little open-ended, up to 9.
I thought it was too. let's bring it back, yeah. Well, I want to be part of it once I'm done here. I would love to be part of it. I think it's really important because it's a really old charter that has a lot of very problematic.
Nominate you to be on it.
Okay, thanks.
Is it possible that
We'll appoint you.
And, something that needs to be done in person?
I think it's a charter meeting. I'm sure we'll have to do hybrid. So we'll have to do Zoom and in person. I think just about everything we do has to be hybrid in nature unless it's like an executive session.
Well, let's work on that at the next meeting and tighten that up so that we can get started on actually reviewing the charter sooner rather than later. Anything? Probably that it's late, and thank you all for coming. Thank you so much. Yes, please.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
The next MAC Board of Commissioners meeting is December 13th, 1:30. They only have 2 years, so and I'm on that one. But then I also have a question. Was there any follow-up from that email that Thaddeus sent about the lease?
I didn't get that.
Yeah, it was just, simply terminated their franchise agreement. They have,
No more TV. They have no TV paying subscribers, I guess. It's all just internet.
When did you get that?
it's on board.
Oh.
They were looking into that.
Gotcha.
Right, okay.
Yeah, Peter was
I was just wondering if there was any other emails went back and forth like very quickly that day, and then it was crickets.
And then when it went back and forth, folks over at MAC were like, we have a group.
I think it's on their court, like what's happening, but I was just wondering if anyone had heard of it. Okay, I'll talk about it at the meeting in December.
Great. All right, anything else from anyone? Yeah. Yeah.
And on Monday, I have been invited to go to the CPO, meeting, and so I'll definitely be there, and I'm excited to spend a few minutes sharing who I am, and then also to learn more about the subset of the whole group, which is, that's all. I'm excited about that.
Thank you for doing that.
I just wanted to acknowledge it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. All those in favor of adjourning? All right, thank you, guys. Thank you.
We're all so much, and I'll give you that to
Oh, I